Welcome to Speechless. We're glad to have you here on this bitterly cold day, but that's the way it goes in Minnesota. So if you're watching this from California, Florida, just count your blessings, okay? But we're counting our blessings too because the ash borer, it's got to be, if it gets 25, 35 below, it kills it off, and that's been killing a lot of our trees, something to that effect. So, there's blessings and curses. So, but a blessing is to have you on the show. Today's show, I'm just going to give a little bit of rundown about freedom of the press in the courts, an update of what's taken place with Dakota being able to film in Dakota County. And the rest of the show is going to be about pro-life issues, pro-choice issues, and 41 years of Roe v. Wade, and we got a lot of video clips on this, and just kind of lay out who the players are, where to get information on pro-life issues, and just really expose what's going on in these abortion mills, these death mills, these incineration camps, or what, anyway, obviously I am pro-life. And I believe women should have a choice, and if they had a choice, they'd keep their babies. But they don't think they have a choice, and we'll hear women say that they didn't have a choice on this show, and they had to abort based on all the pressure that was put on them. So I think it'll be a fascinating show. It'll be heart-rendering. But there was a rally at the Capitol yesterday, and have a little bit of footage from there. But it's kind of the same thing over and over again. And what Representative Klein mentioned, is kind of a somber note. Here we are, 41 years later, and there has been progress. But, what have we done? And so what has changed? And there has been a positive change. So anyway, we'll get into that here in a little bit. But I wanted to give you this letter I received from Judge Leslie Metzen. I had asked to film a court case Monday morning in Dakota County. And of course, the rules of the court state you can't film in district court unless you have permission of all the parties. But then a judge can overrule the parties, and also it has to be a criminal case that is taking place. And in this case, it is a criminal case, but one of the parties objected, so the judge refused. But I had asked earlier for another day that I can film, and that was denied, and so there was another court hearing on this case, and it really doesn't matter what case it is. And I asked to film another day. And this is the letter. And then in that letter, I reminded, please keep in mind that there's freedom of press in the Constitution, and my form of press is film, is media, is documentation. I didn't go to that extent, but my form of press is film and media. So seeing pictures. Well, here's what I got back from Judge Leslie Metzen. Now, she's the wife of State Senator Metzen, and she's also a retired judge. So she doesn't get elected. She doesn't stand for election. There's really no accountability for her except the Board on Judicial Standards. Elections isn't an option. So here's what she says in regarding the particular case. Dear Mr. Kinley, one of the court administration clerks in the 1st District forwarded me your request to record a hearing in the above case that is scheduled for January 27, 2014. I was aware of this request several weeks ago and held a telephone conference with both attorneys to address your request. Now, my request in the past was not for the 27th. It was for an earlier date that has since passed. So I put in another request. Okay, she did not deny all the court dates. So she's misunderstanding that, but it doesn't matter. Then she goes, and this is in context to my comments of the Constitution, constitutional right for the press. She says, Rules 4.01 and 4.02 of the Minnesota Rules of General Practice govern this request. Well, it's one of the areas that governs the request, but it's not the final authority. The final authority is the Constitution. Filming and audio recordings of court hearings are prohibited during a trial or hearing. And that's how it is. It's prohibited, except that that's how it works. The court can authorize some recordings in criminal cases if both attorney and the court agree. The prosecutor in this case objected to the court allowing you to film this proceeding, and so I denied your request. Well, what she left out is she could overrule the prosecutor. That's her prerogative. So really, the way the rule's written, only the judge has the final say. The judge determines. It doesn't matter what the other two sides say. But, you know, why does the prosecutor not want this shown? In my personal opinion, the prosecutor doesn't want it shown because this is a bogus prosecution. And they don't want people knowing that this type of thing is happening. Well, as it ends up, I can't be there on the 27th, so other press will be there, but it won't be me, unfortunately. So I can't even write things down, because I won't be there. And so I have to take the word from somebody else that was there. And it'd be a lot better for you guys to see what was going on in that court case of the attorney that was arrested for taking pictures in the courtroom prior to a court hearing when the courtroom was empty except her and a bailiff. All right. So the prosecutor in this case objected to the court allowing you to film this proceeding, so I denied your request. And she blames it on somebody else when it's her discretion. The courtroom is open to the public, and you are welcome to come to this hearing and report this case to your TV audience as you see fit. But filming or recording of the proceedings is prohibited. There we go, folks. There's the evidence. Affidavit, go in there, file for First Amendment rights, and in my research that I have done, which has been short, you think you can go and say, where's a Supreme Court hearing that you can't film? Has anybody sued the courts for freedom of the press? And people have, and it's only gone so far. And it's stopped. And that's one of the games that gets played. Just go so far, get a negative ruling, and then don't go any farther, and then that's the precedent. But it just bothers me to no end, and it should bother you, that our court system doesn't understand the concept of freedom of press. You know, do they let press go in? Yeah, the Supreme Court does. In Minnesota, the appellate court does. You get to film, and they make allowances for that, 1 day's notice. Not a problem, and I think that is because of the freedom of the press issue. They understand it to that extent. But if they showed what was going on in district court, oh my goodness. And this is recent for the Supreme Court and the appellate courts for the filming. And if people were able to see what was going on in district court, it'd be a big deal. So anyway, hey, any attorneys that are interested in taking that case and filing that and getting some damages, let me know. Speaking of that, call in if you got comments or questions. The phone number is not on that one, not on that graphic. But you can also email me at speechlessmn@gmail.com if comments and questions on the show. We'd sure appreciate it. I've gotten a number of comments, a lot of comments from around the country lately, and I just really appreciate the positive comments. And if you got negative, I'll take them too. I can handle it. It doesn't bother me at all. So anybody should appreciate constructive criticism. Okay. Well, I want to start the show off here with the first video, and it's kind of get us in the mood. It's called "This Time and it was produced by John Elefante, who was the lead singer for Kansas, the band Kansas, and you'll recognize his style when he sings, but you know, Dust in the Wind and I forgot some of the other ones. But he wrote this song because he ended up adopting a child, and I believe that was the story, and he just went through what was the mindset of the mother, who was very young and faced a difficult situation, and what could have gone through her mindset in order to give up her child for adoption. And so it's a great song. So let's play it, Nathan.
She sat cold in a waiting room, frightened and all alone. Watched the clock tick down, knowing that her baby would soon be gone. Her head slung low, so embarrassed. She was 13 years old. She felt a kick inside as a reminder of a life she couldn't show. Then she heard a voice inside saying, "Run away. It was a mistake, but don't throw your child away." Then she fell into a light sleep, had a dream about a little girl. There was a birthday cake and 3 candles. She was living in another world. She saw the little girl become a woman, living in a happy home. Then she was suddenly awakened by a voice that called her name. They said, "Don't worry, you'll be fine. You're still young, we see this all the time." Right then the Lord began to speak. "You're not taking this one, she's mine. She'll grow up and seek my name. You're not taking her, she's mine. And you're not taking her this time. No, you're not taking her this time." She laid flat on the table. She asked, "Please, can I talk to someone?" But a headstrong woman with a blank stare said, "We've got to get this done." Then she cried out loud, "Please help me. I've got to get to a phone. I need to call my mama to help me find my baby a home." They said, "Don't worry, you'll be fine. You're still young, we see this all the time." Right then the Lord began to speak. "You're not taking this one, she's mine. She'll grow up to seek my name. You're not taking her this time. I decided before time began. Her name is written in the book. They didn't have the power to take her life. They're not taking her, she's mine. You're not taking her this time. No, you're not taking her this time." This time. No, you're not taking her this time.
Hi, I'm Samuel Lafante. The story you just watched is based on how I was rescued from being aborted.
And we are eternally grateful that Sammy's birth mother chose life.
Every day in America, 3,500 children lose their lives to abortion. That is one child every 25 seconds.
You can save babies from abortion. For more information, please visit onlineforlife.org.
Yeah, those are, it's her story, but it's a lot of women's story. And I've seen, and what you hear in the recreation of the stories of women and what they went through and being forced and held down, and you can't leave, you're not going to leave. I mean, we got some incredible clips. And actually, what I'm gonna do now is kind of suggest some movies. And Nathan, if you can put up graphic number 8 there, movies that are out that really give a history and education about what's going on in the abortion industry. I highly recommend these. The first one is Ma'afa 21, and then you can find it at www.maafa21.org. And the main thing about that gives a history of the abortion industry, from slavery, Planned Parenthood, a tremendous amount of history, and how Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger's all tied into the American Nazi movement. And one thing people don't realize is that when we won the war with the Nazis, that was over in Europe. The American Nazis didn't fight a battle. They still remained here, and the ideology still went. So all this survival of the fittest, superior race still remained in the United States, and they just change how they operate because, oh boy, the whole world's against us, and I still believe what I believe. So how do I get rid of inferior races like black people, Jews, according to them? And one way they did it was through forced sterilization, of course, abortion. So they moved away from the lynchings, and eventually because of pressure, and then they went into euthanasia, forced abortions, and more black children die of abortion in a month than were ever lynched. And you look at the population of black people, 12%, and you look at the percentage of babies that are aborted, 36%. You look at where these abortion mills are at, they're in inner city, in the minority neighborhoods. They're intentionally designed by Margaret Sanger to go after these inferior people. And they promoted, that's why you gotta watch these movies. The other movie, let's go back to that movie list, Blood Money. Oh my goodness. Unbelievable. And we're gonna show some clips of life after abortion, but the same abortion doctor is talking both in Blood Money and Life After Abortion. And you wouldn't, the focus is different in the two movies. One, Life After Abortion, is women who, after they aborted, what they've gone through, but the abortion doctor is just telling what they did, and we're going to have some clips of that. But this Blood Money, oh my goodness, unbelievable, the lies they tell. We're going to see a little bit of that. And we're going to show a clip next. It's ACLJ, American Silver, I forgot what it's called, aclj.org, and it's abortion. And they put out a movie about the history of the pro-life movement in relationship to legal aspects. And of course, we talk about the judiciary quite a bit on this show, as you well know. And here they're playing a clip of part of the process. You're kind of in the middle of things, but when pro-life people did things, they'd get sued, And here's an interaction between Jay Sekulow, head of the ACLJ, and a federal court judge, and this just the chicanery that goes on in this system, and I think it's fascinating. So let's watch this clip.
The federal court in Kansas, Patrick J. Kelly, and Judge Kelly became very aggressive.
An angry Judge Patrick Kelly said his orders to prevent demonstrators from closing down 3 anti-abortion clinics there would be obeyed. And federal marshals saw to it that they were.
They'll be arrested on the spot. They'll be brought to my court, those leaders. And by the evening, they'll be right up at Sedgwick County Jail. And if they have thoughts of being home by Christmas, they can forget it.
We hadn't even had the hearing on the contempt order, whether the injunction was violated. And he instructs me and others and tells them, tell your clients to bring their toothbrush. And he actually said this on national television as well.
Say farewell to their family and bring their toothbrush, and I mean it, because they're going to jail.
A judge can use his raw power to try to stifle the movement, but God has raised up a move of his spirit here that no man can stand against. None. None.
You know, we're called to do Nightline, and they tell me that the other guest is going to be Lawrence Tribe from Harvard University, and he's in an air-conditioned studio. I'm asked to go to the abortion clinic. About 10,000 protesters are there, pro-lifers. It's 104 degrees, and I'm asked to do it in front of the abortion clinic.
Joining us now from Wichita is the attorney for Operation Rescue, Jay Sekulow. And from our Boston affiliate, WCVB, Harvard University law professor, Lawrence Tribe, an expert on constitutional law. Mr. Sekulow, I want to ask you a question. When you say that you're the attorney, but that you don't tell your clients what to do, behind you are a great many people. I can just see a few of them who are obviously have followed you tonight and know that you are speaking, so that it is more, is it not, you have more than just the role of the attorney looking at the laws. You are advising those people behind you.
Barbara, I am here at this site because your office asked me to come here. I am the attorney. I would have been happy to do this in the studio. You all wanted the dramatic effect. You got it. There are thousands of people and millions across America that disagree, that say abortion's murder. And the fact of the matter is, what this case is all about are people speaking out. And in America, we have the right to speak out. Now, Judge Kelly disagrees with me. I respect that. But Judge Kelly knows that when he asked me to talk with my client, what I told him was I would inform the court of the order, the consequences of violation, as I am obligated to do as an officer of the court. But I don't have to go the next step, and Judge Kelly understood that, I believe. I am representing my client zealously. Maybe what's unusual here, and in this issue, is there's some zealous representation, which maybe's been long overdue.
They don't tell me that there's a third guest.
Joining us now from our affiliate, KAKE in Wichita, is U.S. District Judge Patrick Kelly.
The third guest ends up being the federal court judge who's hearing the case, Judge Kelly.
And my order will bring this to a close. And if these people take up tomorrow, and this lawyer will not tell them that they must follow my order, then tomorrow we'll see. But as I promised to them this week, if they take up again tomorrow, if they continue as what they did before, as opposed to today it was peace, they'll all be in jail. And I promise them that I will no longer listen. I try to work with them, try to reason with them, and I cannot reason with this lawyer. I begged him to turn to them and tell them, please, that you have an obligation to obey the law, and he will not.
That was inappropriate on the judge's part and caused, quite frankly, a significant change in litigation posture as well, because now we had Judge Kelly on Nightline debating the points with me on air, which was just absolutely inappropriate.
Are you going to take to the streets tomorrow? Are you going to be in front of those clinics?
I am the attorney representing these people. I'm not the client.
I wish you could get a commitment from him of that. I'd like to know myself.
Okay, could you answer us tomorrow, just that question? Are you going to be in front of the abortion clinics tomorrow, sir?
Our clients are going to do what they think's right. I am not in a position to say what the clients are going to do. I'm telling you what we're legally doing. We've already appealed this on an emergency basis to the 10th Circuit. We do not get satisfactory relief there, Barbara. We are going to the United States Supreme Court. That's the bottom line.
What happens tomorrow or next week?
Well, tomorrow, if all holds, there'll be peace in this city. If these people elect to go back out and do what they were doing as recent as Saturday, by tomorrow night they'll all be in jail. It's that simple.
Obviously, this is a most important case. We're happy to be able to present some of your views tonight, and certainly the whole nation will continue to follow it and to see what happens, especially tomorrow.
I could probably close your show by saying what one of the lawyers on the steps of the court said this morning, that what we need is a new judge.
I end up going the next day into court, go back into chambers. Judge Kelly gives me this hug. He was very jubilant that we were on, national TV. And I said, well, Judge Kelly, you've gone from being the umpire to the cheerleader for the other side, and you really can't do that. And I said, I'm going to have to ask you to recuse yourself. He refused to, and I took it up to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals on an emergency order, and they ordered his recusal. And it became a really significant case on federal judges and their ability to be unbiased. And we take those cases up to the Supreme Court of the United States.
It's amazing. And, of course, judges like Kelly, life bench, gets to be there, can't be removed except for impeachment. And these federal judges do get impeached. And in my opinion, that was an impeachable offense. Should have known better. But we have that going on in Minnesota district courts. In my opinion, Perkins and Knutson and various other judges that do the exact same thing. It's personal to them. Instead of listening to the both sides and relating it to the law, it's a personal issue. And obviously in this case it ended up being Judge Kelly was wrong. But that movie, you go to the aclj.org website, look for abortion movie, and watch it. Fascinating stuff. And the whole history and the shenanigans that go on. And I really, Randall Terry is on there. That's another organization that's involved in pro-life issues. But a movie we got some other clips from that I want to show now is called Life After Abortion. And all these clips are from a former abortionist. And she's telling how she behaved, what she did, and how it worked in these abortions.
We put her on that table.
Nope. So the first one we're going to show is 2 blob 1 here is what I call it. The cell's pitch is it's just a blob. So let's watch this video.
We'd put her on that table and find just a blob in her abdomen. And we all have blobs. Men and women have blobs in their abdomen. Yes,
that's a short clip. But the other thing, even though we all have blobs in our abdomen, see the shyster thing going on here? I'm a blob. I'm about a 240-pound blob, and I may be a little fudging the numbers there a bit, but I'm a blob. You're a blob. We're all a blob. So blob, blob, blob. It's what they want to perceive and what they want to sell and to get you not to think. It's just a blob. It's not a baby. The statistics are that 94% of the women that go in and see, thinking that it's a blob and see that it's a baby, change their mind. I was told it was just a blob. Well, what do you think that is? And that's a baby. And they change and they keep their baby. If they just think it's a mass of tissues that's disorganized, has no meaning, then they don't have a problem. But that's not the case. Okay, let's go to the next clip here, 2 blob 2.
This girl doesn't know what a sonogram looks like early. She's been told it's a blob of tissue. Here's a blob on the screen. This is the pregnancy experts saying, there it is, you're pregnant. And then grab her by the bony part of the elbow and squeeze. Do you have your money? Can you do it today?
Do you have your money? Can you do it today? The sad part, in the Blood Money movie, this abortionist goes in to say, and other abortionists would do this, your pregnancy test came up negative, you're not pregnant, but these tests can be wrong. Do you want to make sure you're not pregnant? Do you have your money? Let's make sure you're not pregnant. And so they go and perform abortions on girls that aren't aborted, aren't pregnant, don't have a baby there, and they scrape off the inner lining of the uterus. So because they have to have some tissue. And they say that was your baby. And then they damage these women because of that. It's not a good thing to do for women. It's just horrifying. Blood Money, you got to see that movie. It is horrifying what this lady says they did. And of course, other abortion doctors make comments on this movie also. Let's go to the next clip.
An abortionist's fee is 50% of the total cost of the abortion in the second and third trimester. So for that $4,000 abortion, he pockets $2,000. But he can do 3 second or third trimester abortions an hour, $6,000 an hour. Oh, but we all know over 90% of abortions are first trimester abortions. He can't make that much money doing a first trimester abortion for, say, $300. Well, in the first trimester, his fee is 1/3 of the total cost of the abortion. But we had a technique that is widely used in the abortion industry to keep that abortionist doing 10 to 12 abortions an hour. We used 2 teams of 2 assistants with each doctor. And the first team would set up the first girl, and the doctor would go in to do that abortion, while across the hall the second team set up the second girl. When he finished abortion number 1, he ran across the hall. He didn't stop to do a surgical scrub. He did not stop to do operative notes. He went across the hall, changed his gloves, and started abortion number 2. Now, room number 1 had to be cleaned and ready, and the third girl up. So this team had to get the first girl out, clean the room, get girl number 3 up, so when he finished abortion number 2, he could go across the hall and repeat the procedure with girl number 3. 10 to 12 an hour, $100, $1,000, $1,200 an hour, paid in cash. No 1099, no W-2. You see, we did not want to be responsible for any portion of our abortionist malpractice insurance. They were independent contractors. We never showed their money as income. At the end of the day, they walked out with that cash. I'm certain they reported it all, don't you think?
Yeah, that's the system. You don't have to report cash, according to them. In Blood Money, she was saying that 75% of the women that she gave abortions to became infected. Now, the process was the doctor didn't clean himself between patients. Didn't scrub down or anything. You know, there's a clinic, there's a number of local organizations that do sidewalk counseling, and we're going to get into that a bit, but there's a clinic downtown Minneapolis called Whole Woman's Clinic. And there are no regulations in Minnesota. Matter of fact, animal hospitals have stricter cleanliness standards in Minnesota than abortion clinics. They're none. So a guy like Gosnell or the other guy from Texas, that was just horrific conditions there in these abortion places. He'd be scot-free in Minnesota. He wouldn't go to jail. You know, what do we care about women here in Minnesota? Who cares about infections and deaths, injuries? Oh, you got to watch Blood Money, because the stories that she told of how women were damaged, they're trying to be careful, but they weren't. And then they don't have the hospital procedures and the equipment to help these women and the women that died. Well, let's watch this next clip about
The sad thing is the girl grows up front, pays her money, and then because the abortionist has to have a specimen in order to collect his commission, he probably scrapes out more of the lining of the uterus of a young woman that's not pregnant. We'll never know how many abortions are done on women every day across this nation that are not pregnant. But one is too many.
Okay, that was about the scraping of the uterus, abortions of women that aren't pregnant. Outrageous. But she participated in that. But she also talked about deaths and about the suction and how women would get their bowels, because the suction's strong, just sucked right through the uterus, and right out their body. I mean, it's gross. It's terrible. And about the women that died from loss of blood, and just you got to watch it, get a different perspective, or just get information. You know, I watch pro-choice stuff to get information. Don't agree with what they're saying. It makes no sense to me. As a matter of fact, a lot of it's nonsense. But I watch it anyway just to find out what they're saying. Find out what they're saying. Come up with an answer for this, why this is good and helpful. Just to show you that there's lies going on, of course, those were the movies that you can replay this. Go to youtube.com /speechlessmn, and you can replay this show and get a look at what those movies are to find them. And same with these other things, other information I have for you. But Life News. Well, let's go to the graphic number 9, Nathan. Let's just get this, make sure we get this done. We're running out of time. National organizations, National Pro-Life Organization, of course, ACLJ, does all the legal fighting, does a lot, does it for free. They get donations, they win cases, get attorney's fees paid for. ACLJ, a huge organization in this. Randall Terry, Voice of Resistance, he ran for president. All you have to do is Google Randall Terry. He's got a lot of abortion issue. Here's one that I really like. You click on lifenews.org on the internet, sign up for the email, and daily the new news that comes out of what's going on in the abortion industry around the nation, that is up to date. They get the stuff there fast. It is unbelievable. If you knew what they were saying, you would say this stuff needs to be regulated, if you cared about women. If you don't care about women, you know, you're just going to ignore this stuff. You're going to want things to change in this abortion industry because it is horrific. Okay, so those are some of the national organizations. Well, this Life News, I think they're associated with the group Life Dynamics. I think Life News is Life Dynamics. I'm not positive about that. But they have a movie called Inhuman, and they do underground research. That's how they find this stuff. So let's watch, if we're ready there, Nathan, let's watch the movie this clip called Inhuman.
It's just really hard for me to even ask you this question because I'm almost in disbelief. If a baby is born on a table as a result of a botched abortion, what would Planned Parenthood want to have happen to that child that's struggling for life? You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, you know, we believe that, you know, any decision that's made should be left up to the woman, her family, and the physician.
What happens in a situation where a baby is alive, breathing on a table, moving? What do your physicians do at that point?
You're recognized.
I do not have that information. I am not a physician. I'm not an abortion provider. So I do not have that information.
I am the doctor you're meeting with today. So
okay.
it's all of it.
Okay.
So I do the state mandated stuff, which is kind of this part, but
Okay.
I'm going to go through everything in terms of the procedure, how it works, what we're going to be doing,
Okay.
all of that stuff too. If you feel like you're having contractions and enough discomfort that you think it might be labor, call us. Even if it is 1 o'clock in the morning, we want to know, and we can meet you here in the office to take care of you.
Would it ever like come out? Like, I mean, would I give birth like while I'm like calling you and on the way to like what would I do if that happened?
If that happens, just keep calling us, keep heading in this direction.
Okay.
And then we can help.
If it's like I mean,
well, and that's the.
I mean, not to get graphic, but if it's like moving
No,
and
these
stuff,
are
like
good
I still
questions.
come to you.
Still come here.
Okay.
Absolutely. Step 2 is that we do the injection, which is a quick poke through your belly, and that stops the fetal heart. So that makes it so if you were to deliver there shouldn't be movement, there shouldn't be any of those things.
Okay.
So it's almost like we're guaranteed it's like, we're okay.
Yeah, we induce a demise, an intrauterine demise.
What does demise mean?
Death.
Does it come out in like pieces or does it come out whole?
It depends. Every case is a little bit different because the medicines we give you will help us do different things. But it's more common that it comes out in pieces.
And then what do you do with the baby after, or like the pieces and stuff?
So the fetus and everything that goes along with it, the placenta, all of that is sent to a what are they called? Like a funeral home, and they're cremated, and then the ashes we spread out in the desert, in the foothills or Wasatch, like one of the hills. They take them to and spread the ashes into nature. We use a combination of suction and then real instruments to literally go in and grab and pull pieces out.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe that's a little more graphic than I usually describe it. When you come in tomorrow, you'll be 23 weeks and 2 days. And the state of Arizona requires me to tell you that at that gestational age, the fetus is about 8 inches from the top of its head to its buttocks. It has a beating heart, fingers, toes, and it can make spontaneous movements.
At this point, does it have like all of its organs and all of that stuff? Like, is it already fully
It's not
developed?
fully developed. It doesn't even look like a baby yet.
It doesn't?
Technically, it has its organs. It has parts, like we all have parts, but it's not done.
So, like, does it have a face or like all of that stuff? Or?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's developing into.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want you to torture yourself.
And did you understand exactly what the digoxin does? That's the injection that they give you. That's one of your forms that you filled out.
And it like goes into my stomach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That stops the heartbeat.
Of the baby?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're okay with that?
I don't really have another choice, do I?
No, well you don't, but you could probably do it without the digoxin if you wanted to.
How?
Well, it just takes longer to...
How do they do it then?
Huh?
How do they do it if they don't use
Well, they don't use the digoxin, they'll just suction the baby, and it's possible that there may be movement as they're taking out the fetus.
Like movement after?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens?
Well, then usually it stops on its own.
Okay. So, okay, if they use the
digoxin?
No, what did you say, suction?
Uh-huh.
So if they use the suction, then there's possible movement when it comes out.
Yeah, and sometimes after...
Is it alive or?
Sometimes they are, yeah. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it will come out whole, because they use suction, plus they use instruments, and sometimes the fetuses don't come out, that's not complete.
Okay.
So,
but if it does come out whole,
mm-hmm.
I mean, will they resuscitate it? Like, will I have to take care of it?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, but the digoxin is probably the best thing for it. That way
Okay.
there's no suffering. Okay?
Okay.
I need your signature and date on that line, and then we'll get you going.
If that does happen, like if they do it, if I were to choose to do it that way, like, you would just let it go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you would just let it die on its own if it
Mhm.
was whole and
Mhm.
breathing. Yes?
They
Okay.
do not resuscitate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just let it die on its own and,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
And the chances of it coming out with a heartbeat are kind of slim because, like I said, it's a procedure where they use instruments and suction, and it's most of the time they don't come out whole.
Okay.
But
if it does, then I don't have to worry about getting in trouble or taking a baby home.
Oh, no.
I understand that you're not a physician, but you do represent physicians who do perform this activity. And can you tell me what happens when a baby is alive on the table at that point? What do they do with the baby that is struggling to live?
You're recognized.
I don't know, and as it's been referenced earlier, we don't know even how prevalent this situation is.
that put together that, and I think that's part of Life News. Life News is part of Live Action. But here's the thing, that's between the family and the physician. The woman and the physician. We're going to hear some conversation, some testimony from a lady who had an abortion, who's part of Silent No More, which is a local Minnesota group. And as I believe you heard with the abortionist here, or she would say in Blood Money, these other things, there is no conversation. You don't talk to a physician when you have an abortion. That doesn't happen. You go to Planned Parenthood, the first time you see a physician or these other places is when you're on that table ready to have that baby sucked out of you or ripped apart out of you or grabbed with pliers, medical pliers, and torn apart out of you. That's the first time, and there's no conversation. You know, that was not a physician that lady was talking to. So let's watch this testimony from this gal from Silent No More, see what she has to say. This is at the Minnesota Capitol about 3 years ago.
My name is Carla Stream. I was 24 when I found out I was pregnant. I didn't know what to do or who to turn to. I told 2 people. My roommate said, "I'll drive ya." She was talking about abortion. The other friend didn't say anything. I was a woman in crisis. I felt desperate, lost, alone, and didn't see that I had any other choice but abortion. I didn't believe I could have a career, make a living, or raise a baby on my own. I was too terrified to seek out any other alternative to abortion. I felt rushed and panicked and was not at all convinced that abortion was the right thing for me to do. If one person had said to me, "You can do this, I will help you, I will be here for you," this story might have been completely different. I looked under A's in the phone book and made an appointment at Meadowbrook. I remember looking for those radical protesters to talk me out of what I was about to do. They weren't there. There were so many people at Meadowbrook, boyfriends with girlfriends, mothers with daughters. We were herded like cattle with nobody looking at or talking to each other. I was given counseling, watching a film strip of a bunch of red circles, what my baby supposedly looked like. I was asked, "What kind of mother would you be?" And I was also asked, "Will that be Visa or MasterCard today?" I did not have a pregnancy test or an ultrasound, and I found out years later I was about 10 weeks along. During the abortion, the assistant babbled on and told me what was happening as it happened. The abortionist didn't look at me or talk to me. He was cruel and he seemed angry. If abortion is supposed to be between a woman and her doctor, are they talking about him? He didn't know anything about me. The pain of having my baby suctioned out of my body was excruciating. The vacuum was so loud, I hear it still. I was yelled at for telling the assistant that I was bleeding heavily. "Well, if you are, you're going right back in there and the doctor's going to work on you again." There was no way I was going back in there. I lied and I told her that I was fine. I was so relieved. I sat in a recliner with a warm blanket on me, eating peanut butter and jelly toast, and I tried to catch someone's eye and smile with relief. All of the other girls in their recliners were crying. I assumed that I was just much more mature than they were. I was told now I could get on with my life. My problem was solved, my predicament was over. I ran from my thoughts and my feelings by drinking, partying, eating too much or too little, and working obsessively. I had nightmares, I struggled with depression, I had suicidal thoughts, and I made one suicide attempt. The shame and guilt over what I had done covered me like a wet blanket, but I didn't know why or what to do about it. It wasn't until 5 years later, when my husband and I miscarried a baby at 10 weeks along, that I began to realize what my abortion had done. I delivered that baby into my hand, and I saw with my own eyes not a bunch of red circles. but toes and feet and legs and fingers, hands and arms, a tiny rump and a precious little face. I sought healing through post-abortive Bible studies and Rachel's Vineyard retreats. I became a Rachel's Vineyard facilitator to help other post-abortive women and men find hope and healing after their abortions. My daughter died on September 5th, 1990 at Meadowbrook. I named her Aubrey, and she waits for me in heaven. And I tell our story to honor her short little life. God has forgiven me. I have forgiven myself, and I am silent no more.
Telling the truth, you know, that's essentially what you have to do. You have to call her a liar in order to justify your reasoning for continuing on with abortion and not stopping it. And I guess that's your prerogative. This argument that you're not fully developed, the baby's not fully developed. In the video before, she was told that. The realization that, again, was the blob, just circles, you know. The 10-week, when she aborted the baby, and then miscarriaging at 10 weeks. Wow, dramatic. You know, the realization that you're lied to is really, really tough. But it's also relieving, you know, once you know the truth. Let's put up graphic number 10, I believe. Local pro-life groups in the area. And of course, she mentioned Rachel's Vineyard, and I don't have that on the list, but this list is basically ones I associate with. And are any of those other videos going to work? Just give me a thumbs up or down whether they will or not. Okay, but I want to keep on this graph, amnion.org, and actually let's go to the scan converter if you can. If you can, this is Amnion, their website, just to make sure you, we didn't prepare for this. Yeah, that's what Amnion looks like in the South Metro area, Crisis Pregnancy Center. Just wonderful people working there. The next one is New Life Family Services. You get free testing, free sonograms. You just get a lot of help, and these are help with crisis pregnancies, unplanned, you know, and STD testing. Another great organization, work closely with them. This other organization, Pro-Life Action Ministries, is going to be on the show sometime in February. I told them any day, but the first week in February, so they'll be on. 40 Days for Life. They're helping shutting down clinics in the area just by having people know what's going on. Prayer vigils, street walk, sidewalk counseling, and then of course Minnesota's Concern for Life. They do legislative stuff at the Capitol, do all the lobbying effort down there, and then Silent No More. Of course, you heard one of the speakers at the rally at the Capitol, Silent No More. Okay, we can come back here. We're going to go, so there's a lot of local areas where you can get help and in these things. All the resources you need, you just don't have to do it. And of course, adoption is an option. I want to show a couple clips. Nathan, go to the Me Still graphic. I was going to play Representative Klein. We're out of time, but I wanted you to see if this can come up. We had some technical difficulties. This is one of the signs down at the rally. It had a picture of a baby when it was, you know, still a pregnancy, and then the baby after the pregnancy, and it's still the same person. And that's hard for some people to grasp, that it's a baby in the womb, it's a baby out of the womb, it's viable in the womb. It's not, it's viable outside, and it isn't viable until it's viable outside the womb too. But if you take it out of the womb and it won't be viable outside, you've killed the baby because it was viable inside. Oh, out of time, got to get going. Replay, you'll get all these facilities, locations. Remember, if you don't stand up for somebody's liberties, and that's the liberty of the unborn, that baby, that child, who's going to stand up for yours? There's no reason. If you don't have a life outlook, if you feel you can kill your baby, somebody feels they can kill you, no problem. It's a small step. And good men don't do nothing. Stand up. Let's defeat this abortion industry. Good night. God bless.
Days go